Hello everyone. Hello. So guys, I do apologize. I was trying to upload this video a little bit earlier, or record and upload, but my phone died and I just got really busy today. Then I went back into mom mode. So guys, you guys know how it is. I was pretty busy, but nevertheless, the day is not over with. I just gave my son his bath. He's eating. He just finished homework. He's fine, so I said, let me carve out about 10-15 minutes to read to you guys. I believe this is video 10, and we're still in strategy 3, learn to speak your spouse's love language. So if you miss videos, I believe it's videos 1 through 9. I think we did 9 videos so far, guys. If you missed any of those videos, feel free to check them out, and I'm just going to continue on. If you guys hear my son in the background, yes, baby, if you guys hear my son in the background, he's between the living room and in the room. So let's jump back into this, guys. So thank you, Lord. So research indicates that the average duration of this initial euphoria is 2 years. When we come down off the emotional high, we must make the transition to the next stage of love, which is much more intentional and requires a conscious effort to meet the emotional needs of the other person. And guys, I believe the last time that we read on this chapter was on Friday, so it was a few days ago. Okay, so we're still talking about that. Okay, so many couples fail to make this transition. Instead, they get the tingles for someone else, divorce, and remarry, repeating the cycle with another mate. 60% of those who remarry will experience a second divorce. And if perchance they try again, the divorce rate for third marriages is 75%. The importance of learning how to make the transition from the obsessive stage to the intentional stage of love should be obvious. So guys, we're talking about from the obsessive stage to the intentional stage of love. Just because we stay in a relationship does not mean that emotional love will continue to flow. The second stage of love is truly different from the first. The obsessive feelings we have for each other begin to fade, and we recognize other important pursuits in life besides pursuing each other. The illusions of perfection evaporate, and the words of our partners and friends return to our minds. He hasn't had a steady job in 5 years. She's been married 5 times before. We start to wonder how we could have been so blind to reality. Differences in personality, interests, and lifestyle now become obvious, whereas before we hardly notice. The euphoria that led us to put each other first and to focus on each other's well-being has now dissipated. And we begin to focus on ourselves and to realize that our spouse is no longer meeting our needs. We begin to request and then demand things from our mate, and when he or she refuses to meet our demands, we withdraw or lash out in anger. Our anger or withdrawal pushes our mate further away and makes it more difficult for him or her to express love to us. Can such tarnished relationships be reborn? The answer is yes. If couples become aware of the nature of love and learn how to express love in a language their mate can understand. Good intentions are not enough. We must also learn how to meet our spouse's emotional need for love. People are different. What makes one person feel loved will not necessarily make another person feel loved. By nature, we tend to express love to others in the way we wish they would express love to us. Now, that's very true. I know that to be true. When our spouse doesn't respond positively to our expressions of love, we get frustrated. The problem is not the sincerity of our love. The problem is that we are speaking the wrong love language. If we speak our own love language but not our mates, we will fail to communicate. And guys, I can't wait for us to read the 5 love languages in September, Lord's will, as well. So he said, I'm often asked to explain the popularity of my book, The 5 Love Languages, which has now sold more than 3 million copies and has been translated into 34 languages around the world. I believe that the book has been successful because it has helped people learn to make the transition from obsessive love to intentional love. It has taught people how to discover and speak their spouse's love language and thus keep emotional Okay, let me go back up. I believe that the book has been successful because it has helped people learn to make the transition from obsessive love to intentional love. It has taught people how to discover and speak their spouse's love language and thus keep emotional love alive in their relationship. In the remainder of this chapter, I want to give you a brief summary of the first wow, guys, I'm sorry. I'm a little sleepy myself. Let me finish up. Okay. In the remainder of this chapter, I want to give you a brief summary of the 5 love languages. Justice, open the door. Regardless of which season your marriage is now in, learning to speak your partner's love language will enhance your communication, fill your spouse's love tank, and strengthen your relationship. If your marriage is in fall or winter, learning to speak your spouse's love language may be the key to turning your marriage around and heading forward into spring and summer. So now we're going to talk about the 5 love languages. After 30 years as a marriage counselor, I am convinced that there are 5 basic love languages, 5 ways to express love emotionally. Each person has a primary love language that we must learn to speak if we want a person to feel loved. So the first is, let me just kind of give you guys a gist of it. Words of affirmation, acts of service. Don't worry, we're going to read this. I'm just kind of telling you guys in case we don't get to some of it today. But words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, physical touch. Okay, see, I didn't know how long they were because I'm actually reading this along with you guys now. So, okay. So words of affirmation. One time when my wife and I were visiting our daughter and son-in-law and our 2 grandchildren, our son-in-law took the garbage out after dinner. When he walked back into the room where we were talking with our daughter, she looked up and said, "John, thanks for taking the garbage out." Inside, I said, "Yes," because I knew the power of appreciation. I can't tell you how many men and women have sat in my office over the past 30 years and said to me, "I work my tail off every day, yet my spouse acts like I haven't done a thing. I never get a single word of appreciation." If your spouse's primary love language is words of affirmation, your spoken praise and appreciation will fall like rain on parched soil. Before long, you will see new life sprouting in your marriage as your spouse responds to your words of love. So that's the first one, guys, is words of affirmation. You okay, baby? Okay. The next one is acts of service. Give mommy 5 more minutes or so, okay? And I'm going to come back in there with you. Acts of service. Do you remember the old saying, actions speak louder than words? For some people, that is particularly true of love. If acts of service is your spouse's primary love language, nothing will speak more deeply to him or her emotionally than simple acts of service. And guys, before we continue to read, I just kind of want to ask you guys that are viewing, these videos and following along, whether it's your first time or you've actually been joining in, reading along with us as we've been reading this book together. What are some of your love languages? What are some of your languages? What are some of your spouse's language? So, okay. So, Maxine, okay, hold on. Let me go back up. Nothing will speak more deeply to him or her emotionally than simple acts of service. Maxine, who had been married for 15 years, came to my office one day because she was frustrated with her marriage. Listen to what she said. "I don't understand David. Every day he tells me that he loves me, but he never does anything to help me. He just sits on the couch watching TV while I wash the dishes, and the thought never crosses his mind to help me. I'm sick of hearing 'I love you.' If he loved me, he would do something to help me." Maxine's primary love language is acts of service, not words of affirmation. And even though her husband David loved her, he had never learned to express his love in a way that made her feel loved. However, after David and I talked and he read the 5 love languages, he got the picture and started speaking Maxine's love language. In less than a month, her love tank was beginning to fill up, and their marriage moved from winter to spring. The next time I talked to Maxine, she said, "It's wonderful. I wish we had come for counseling 10 years ago. I never knew about the love languages. I just knew I didn't feel loved." So before we get into receiving gifts, Justice, come back in here. Before we get into receiving gifts, I just want to hold the camera really quick on this in case any of you wanted to go over what we just read with the words of affirmation, acts of service, or take some notes. Or if you wanted to screenshot anything, I just kind of want to give you guys a second to do that. And the next one is receiving gifts. So, and guys, I apologize about my son. You guys know he's going to be 5, Lord's will, in July. So you guys know how toddlers can be. So sorry about that. So receiving gifts. In every society throughout human history, gift giving has been perceived as an expression of love. Giving gifts is universal because there is something inside the human psyche that says if you love someone, you will give to him or her. What many people do not understand is that for some people, receiving gifts is their primary love language. It's the thing that makes them feel loved most deeply. If you're married to someone whose primary love language is gift giving, you will make your spouse feel loved and treasured by giving gifts on birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, and no occasion days. The gifts need not be expensive or elaborate. It's the thought that counts. Even something as simple as a homemade card or a few cheerful flowers will communicate your love to your spouse. Little things mean a lot to a person whose primary love language is receiving gifts. So I'm going to leave the camera on here for a second. This third one is receiving gifts. Okay, the next one, guys, is quality time. Quality time. So if your spouse's love language is quality time, giving him or her your undivided attention is one of the best ways you can show your love. Some men pride themselves on being able to watch television, read a magazine, and listen to their wives all at the same time. That is an admirable trait, but it is not speaking the love language of quality time. Instead, you must turn off the TV, lay the magazine down, look into your mate's eyes, and listen and interact. To your spouse, 20 minutes of your undivided attention, listening and conversing, is like a 20-minute refill of his or her love tank. And guys, you know, I never really thought about it like that, but that does make a lot of sense, you know. So then he said, men, if you really want to impress your wife, the next time she walks into the room while you are watching a sporting event, put the television on mute and don't take your eyes off of her as long as she's in the room. If she engages you in conversation, turn the TV off and give her your undivided attention. You will score 1,000 points and her love tank will be overflowing. So guys, that one is quality time. And the next one is physical touch. We have long known the emotional power of physical touch. That's why we pick up babies and touch them tenderly. Long before an infant understands the meaning of the word love, he or she feels loved by physical touch. Guys, hold on 1 second, please. Sorry about that, guys. I had to get some water. Okay, so in marriage, the love language of physical touch includes everything from putting a hand on your mate's shoulder as you walk by, touching his or her leg as you're driving together, and holding hands while you're walking, to kissing, embracing, and sexual intercourse. If physical touch is your spouse's primary love language, nothing communicates love more clearly than for you to take the initiative to reach out and touch your mate. Okay, so quality time, physical touch is the two that we just read. We got the words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts. So we'll be reading a lot more about that in September. I know some of you probably already read that book. Some of you may read it before then, but Lord's will corporately, hopefully we're going to be reading it, Lord's will, September. Diving into that whole book like we're doing this one. And then we're also going to be getting into the purpose-driven life, like right after we finish this book as well. So now, guys, let's read this page, and then we'll stop in the next few minutes or so. But let's read Discovering Your Spouse's Love Language, and then we'll pick up the rest on the next video for this. So if the key to meeting your spouse's need for emotional love is learning to speak his or her love language, how can you discover what that love language is? It's simple. Listen to your spouse's complaints. Here are 5 common complaints in the love language that each reveals. The first one says, "You mean you didn't bring me anything? Did you even miss me while you were gone?" So that one is receiving gifts. The second one, "We never spend any time with each other anymore. We're like 2 ships passing in the dark." That one is quality time. The third, "I don't think you would ever touch me if I didn't initiate it." That's physical touch. The fourth, "I can't do anything right around here. All you ever do is criticize. I can never please you." So that one, guys, will be words of affirmation. And then this last one, which is the 5th, says, "If you love me, you would do something around here. You never lift a finger to help." So that's acts of service. So I'm going to just leave it really quick on here in case y'all want to take some notes and like get an idea about these complaints. He's saying that this is the love language that goes with each one. And then typically when our spouse complains, we get irritated. But here she is actually giving us valuable information. Complaints often reveal the key to our spouse's inner longing for emotional love. If we learn our mate's primary love language and speak it, we will have a happier spouse and a better marriage. But what if your spouse's primary love language is something that isn't easy for you to do? What if you're not a touchy-feely person, but your spouse's primary love language is physical touch? And we're going to stop right there, guys, and we'll pick this up next time. What the answer is simple. I pray that you guys were encouraged by today's video. You guys have a great evening, great morning, great afternoon, wherever you are. It's evening for us. But God bless you guys and have a great day.